Hi folks, I've got the winter woolies on. I guess it's cold where you are too. It's winter come early to Queensland and a bit cooler than we've seen for the last few years. Today in my weekly wrap I want to talk about vertical fiscal imbalance, VFI, and the real need for local government to access a growth tax. But I just wanted to say beforehand, like you, I'm frustrated as all get out that I can't get out and see you. Clearly there are very strict rules are in place, and we've seen tragically this week in rural Queensland why that's the case. We simply can't have people breaking curfew and travelling and endangering other people. We've followed the Premier's lead, but rest assured the minute we're able to travel out to you wherever you are, we'll be out there. I spend 90 days every year out of the office, and you know, I know Queensland like the back of my hand, and I truly miss those occasions, but we'll be back doing that as soon as it's lawfully and morally the right thing to do. In terms of vertical fiscal imbalance, it's one of those dubious economic terms, but it really goes to the heart of our challenge in local government. Whilst we've had a really big win, the LGAQ advocacy has delivered just around 400 million of brand new extra money to councils. That isn't the main game. It's welcome, certainly it will help, but historically our financial position has weakened because of the different approaches that have been taken in Canberra. Originally councils were the beneficiary of what was known as the Personal Income Tax Sharing Act, or PITS Act. That was from the mid-70s, where we got 1% and then 2% of all personal income tax collected by the federal government. And year on year there were double-digit increases, and indeed I think the last year of the scheme was a 14% increase. Then in 1987 all that changed with the introduction of the FAGS Act, where the corpus, the main amount of money, remained the same, but the inflator, the things that the multipliers that were applied, changed to only be CPI and indeed population. So we didn't have any access to growth. It was simply the same money. And even then, a number of federal governments have, over that period, frozen the application of the multipliers, the population and or CPI, so that source of funding has been greatly diminished. That's why the LGAQ and ALGA are so strongly committed to our 1% of total taxation message. Just to give you an idea of how far behind we are, the Queensland Local Government Grants Commission does an assessment of councils' needs and funding ability, the ability to raise revenue, and the gap is $780 million. That's a lot of money, and that doesn't take into account water and sewerage. Equally, if we had 1% of total federal taxation, Queensland councils would get an additional $400 million every year. Now that would mean all councils are better, but particularly those smaller struggling councils would see a huge boost. So that's why it's so important we never lose sight of two things: that we're very much disadvantaged in terms of vertical fiscal imbalance, and that we need access to a growth tax. I can proudly say back in 1997 I did a deal with the then Queensland government and opposition to get a fixed amount of money out of the GST. That was the original GST package. For those of you who remember your political history, got rolled by the Democrats in the Senate, and as a consequence of that we never got that money. That would have seen us in a fantastic situation now, way better than what it is, and I remain committed to seeing that happen. I think that's the only way in the long term we can really get local government on an even keel, and that is an access to a federal growth tax. Finally, I just want to thank everyone for their continuing efforts. The fact that we remain united, that local government in Queensland fights as one, is a terrific thing. We have enormous power in our collective solidarity. That's never been lost on me. As an economist, I've always believed in the economies of scope and scale, and this is a political expression of the same thing. United, we're a very strong force. We're able to match it with pretty much anyone out there and have open doors with both sides of politics at the highest level, can command significant media attention. And because of that, we can really advocate for our members and look after them in the best possible way. Thanks very much.